Welcome to the solution for the hands-on activity, evaluating prompt performance. Now that you have completed the hands-on activity, let me walk you through how I would approach these tasks. By the end of this activity, you will be able to evaluate and refine prompts used in Copilot to enhance their effectiveness for creating and updating Gantt charts. You will learn to utilize feedback loops to adjust prompts, testing various phrasings and structures to optimize Copilot's output for improved results. Additionally, you will implement techniques for prompt optimization to ensure precise task scheduling and effective resource allocation. Finally, you will apply your knowledge of prompt engineering to analyze task dependencies, durations, and personnel assignments, ultimately improving the management and visualization of project timelines. For task 1, let's create an initial prompt to generate a Gantt chart from the dataset. So let's begin by prompting Copilot. Let's start with the prompt to create a Gantt chart to visualize the start and end dates for each task listed along with the duration and task dependencies. We want to get a visual representation of the entire project schedule. So let's assess Copilot's ability to perform this task. It responds with, it encountered an issue while trying to create the Gantt chart. Please try asking another question or provide more details. So this is one of the limitations of Copilot, and it is not yet able to create visualizations of this nature. So let's move on to the next prompt. We can assess how effectively the initial prompt captured the required task details. We'll ask Copilot to assess the completeness of the Gantt chart and identify any missing task dependencies or inaccuracies in task durations. But this prompt will help us ensure the chart accurately reflects the project's scheduling needs. The result of this prompt is Copilot provides us with some step-by-step instructions in order to assess the completeness of the Gantt chart dataset and to identify the missing task dependencies or inaccuracies in the task durations. So Copilot will check for the missing task dependencies and verify if any tasks have missing dependencies. Next, it will check for inaccuracies in the task durations. So step 1, to identify the missing dependencies, it will check the dependencies columns for any blank cells. For inaccuracies in the task durations, to verify the accuracy, it will calculate the duration using the start and end dates and compare it to the provided duration in days. Now, to implement these checks, it provides step-by-step instructions on how to do so, as well as sample formulas that we can add into some helper columns. It ends off by telling us we can implement these steps in our Excel sheet in order to achieve the result we prompted it with initially. So now, after executing this prompt, has Copilot successfully produced the output we requested? Clearly not. So is it possible to then refine this prompt? We can break this prompt down into smaller parts. Let's first ask Copilot to highlight the missing task dependencies and then select Apply. So we can ask Copilot to add a column comparing the start and end dates and then comparing this to the result to the duration in days column to identify any discrepancies. Now we can insert the column, and at a quick glance, we don't have any discrepancies. And this is how to effectively break down your prompts if your initial prompt is not working. Now we can optimize prompts for task conflict resolution. So let's prompt Copilot. We can prompt it to identify any overlapping tasks and suggest adjustments to prevent scheduling conflicts. As a result, Copilot produces a list of overlapping tasks. It also responds to say that it has found tasks that may overlap, but the information provided doesn't show everything requested, so it tells us to be more specific and try another prompt for better results. Here again, after evaluating Copilot's performance, it has not successfully completed the task. So how can we refine this prompt and be more specific? So let's try a more clear prompt to provide only a list of overlapping tasks. And now we can add this to a new worksheet and identify all the tasks that are overlapping. Next, let's try an advanced prompt to manage and allocate personnel resources effectively. We've used the prompt asking Copilot to generate a report showing the personnel assignments for tasks marked as red in the RAG status and suggest alternative scheduling or additional resourcing needs. So let's add this to a new sheet. And here it shows us the person responsible for each task. However, Copilot is not able to suggest alternative scheduling or additional resourcing needs based on the current data. So this means it would require further information in the data set in order to provide these suggestions. Finally, let's establish a system for updating the Gantt chart dynamically as the project variables change. This prompt of creating a dynamic updating mechanism in the Gantt chart that automatically adjusts the task durations and dependencies based on real-time data inputs will ensure the Gantt chart remains accurate and useful throughout the project lifecycle. And once again, Copilot provides us with a step-by-step instruction to create a dynamic updating mechanism. It tells us to use more advanced automation techniques, which would require VBA. It also provides the formulas as well as the code that we could use in the VBA. So can Copilot handle this prompt? Well, yes. However, there are alternative methods that you could use to complete this task, once again by breaking down the task into simpler prompts and using helper columns along the way. Great! Let's recap what we've done. In this activity, we addressed scheduling conflicts and delays in a construction project by utilizing Excel Copilot to automate the generation of a detailed Gantt chart. As the project lead, your primary task was to craft effective prompts that analyze project data, generate the Gantt chart, identify scheduling conflicts, and suggest optimizations. Through a series of steps, you evaluated and refined your prompts for creating the chart, optimized prompts for conflict resolution, and implemented advanced techniques for resource allocation. Ultimately, you aimed to establish a dynamic system that adjusts to changes, improving overall project management and execution.